welcome back to the Creative Shelf. And first and foremost, happy Friday the 13th. You are joining me on a warm, overcast day in Brussels. But without further ado, I just thought I'd do a quick wrap up of all of my favorites from last month, from April. So hopefully this should be a short video. I'm just going to try and stick to some of the decks that I've worked with and some of the things that I've been just really enjoying about them. And yeah, and just say a quick hello. So thank you for joining me again today. So first and foremost, as you know already from my wrap up from last month, the deck that I worked with last month, like my deep dive of the month, was the Anna K Tarot. Now, this deck had been sitting on my shelf for a really long time, and I decided to just, pull it out and work with it. It just felt like a really good spring energy. Anna K is an Austrian creator. She made this deck when she was in her mid-teens, so that is phenomenal. And it's a Llewellyn mass market deck. It was originally published independently, but now it's available from Llewellyn and the general sites, Amazon and so forth, and Book Depository. So basically, these are the backs, absolutely gorgeous. And these are the images. Now, it's a very medieval deck. It's very, I find it very simple, very to the point. She has a very cohesive color tone all the way through. So I just find it it's a really cohesive deck. That's the best way I can put it. It's not jarring. It's very simple in its messaging. It's a great beginner's deck. If you are a beginner, I would just so recommend this. And you do get a little white book, but I also believe that, if you use this with a standard reference Rider-Waite-Smith book, it just works just as fine. But it is just so great. And I find that the images for me are more appealing than the traditional RWS, to be very frank. But that's just me. Now, it has got this, as I said before, this very medieval thing. This reminds me of the Ottomans, actually. But I just find it's got beautiful artwork. And I love the people in it. I like the fact that they don't look model. They don't look like they are these perfect kind of like figures that you sometimes get from low Scarabeo decks. This time the models are actually just real human beings. I know sometimes people have said that they find the faces a little bit, even on the women, sometimes a little bit masculine. I actually really like that. I like the fact that the people look normal and real and everyday people. I think this is how we look in real life. And we're not all perfect, and we don't all have perfect hair and perfect teeth and whatever. And I like that. I like that, it's just simplicity, very grounded, very warm and touching, and a deck that just can be easily related to. It does, I just want to mention, it does lack some diversity, and I have to say that. But it has been set in the medieval realm, and I do get a very strong Ottoman feel from it. So I don't know if the author and the creator was attending that, but I do feel that it actually does justice to the culture in that sense. And so, yeah, so I just really, really love this deck. And I like how it's just captured the emotions. But, we're not flooded with like loads of symbols. And so I think it's a very beautiful deck just to have as a collector, but also really great if you're a beginner. The death card looks a bit cheesy, I do have to say that. But overall, I still think this is a fantastic, beautiful deck to start off with if you're new. And even if you're not and you're collecting, if these images appeal to you, of course, then I would definitely recommend the Anna K. Okay, so then after that, I'm just going to show some decks that I've actually enjoyed. And some are from my collection from before, and some I think I've shown on the channel, I can't remember. Okay, so this is the deck that I get out in like the summer, but I've already started to like bring it out in the spring, and that's my Lantern Oracle. And that's because when we're in like the spring, summer season, sometimes I miss kind of like those dark gothic kind of like feels. I do need that in my palette. So this deck, I think, really, really, really just kind of like brings those dark gothic feels, but allows us to be in like spring. I don't know how else to put it. So let me show you some of the images. I'm sure you've all seen this book before, but if not, this is a Blue Angel Oracle deck. So, you've got that beautiful Blue Angel cardstock if you do like that matte cardstock. And here are the backs. I mean, I need to say this right, is that one thing, and maybe I'm going a bit off course here, but let me just see if I can grab it and find one for you as an example. But one thing that I really kind of like noticed. See, this is where it all goes off track, and I start to pull things out. Actually, I'm going to pull this deck out as well, actually, so let me put that there for a second. What I really like is that Blue Angel cardstock. If you don't like matte, okay, fair enough, but I do think it's a really good quality, basically. So here are the images. So the deck is by, let me get this right now, let me just get right, the creators. Should know it on the back. Okay, Angela Mirabito is the author, and illustrated by Yuli Alejo, I don't know. These are the images. I think the artwork is just ethereal, stunning, tasteful, emotive. The colors are just so cohesive. I don't go from card to card with changing images thinking this doesn't even blend together, which can happen sometimes with decks. This deck is very, very cohesive in that sense, but it takes us from, you know, a very cosmic vibe, to something a bit more medieval, very female empowering as well. You know, lost in the forest kind of feeling, ready for battle, a warrior here, so female empowering. You know, just again and again, we have some beautiful images and the emotions in them. I also like the diversity in the deck. I like the differences in faces, phenotypes. I love the beauty of capturing certain cultural aspects. Yeah, it's just very, very well done, and very tasteful, and very empowering and strong. And you know, it's also great not just for myself, but I've also found that sometimes when I've done a reading, to pull a card from here, people have really liked the card, enjoyed the card. They've said, you know, what deck is that? So I've pulled this out just as used kind of like on my altars in April, and it's just been really good, you know, just to pull a card every now and then, every few days. So yeah, so this is the Lantern Oracle, and if you're looking for something that's got kind of like a slightly darkish vibe, but not Halloween, because it's not Halloween yet, it's not Samhain yet, but you want to use it kind of like, you know, during Beltane or Letha, and you know, and all those kind of like occasions that we get leading up towards Samhain, you know, then I would recommend this deck. Okay, so that was a Lantern Oracle. Then moving on, and this is why I took out actually this deck. Now I did pick up this deck, but I didn't really work with it, and that is the Mystic Sisters. This is a deck by Emily Balavet, and the reason why I picked it up was because I think that the images, I bought this last year, are just, oh my god, they're like, I mean, you know, now we're seeing a lot of this, but I love the images. So they're so intricate. I mean, look at this. I mean, just beautiful artwork. These are the backs, before I forget. I mean, one of the reasons why I bought the deck, to be quite honest with you, is the backs. I think the backs are stunning. And these are the images. It's a mass market US Games deck. Sometimes we have kind of like categories like mermaids. Then we have like, you know, like settings like the magical key and so forth. Here's matcha, and then you have sometimes like the actual, like a goddess, like a red queen or Urania, you know. So it varies in how it's depicting the female energy. You know, it's called Mystic Sisters. I don't know if this began as an indie deck and then went mass market. I have no idea, but I really, really think that the art is just gorgeous, and that's the reason why I bought it. But the reason why I said that I delved into it and then I didn't really work with it, and that's why you see me also looking at the Lantern Oracle, and that's why they tie together in that sense, is I am really annoyed with US Games cardstock for Oracle decks. This is, let me see if I can show you. I don't know if it's going to turn out well. There you go. I'm trying to be careful because I might accidentally just bend it, because I'm like that. I'm not very good with doing the whole woo-hoo-hoo thing kind of thing, but you can see. And the reason why I want to show you that is, and I've said this to another tarot tuber, I mentioned it to them, that I'm really annoyed because US Games are charging for some of their Oracle decks around the €30 price point. That's what I see on Book Depository and so forth. And yet, And Blue Angel, when a new Blue Angel deck comes out right now, it's around €30 as well. And they, of course, that price drops because the popularity and the demand starts to get a bit more even, and then they're around the €20 mark. That's the best way I can put it. But what annoys me is that the Blue Angel cardstock, even if you don't like matte, I do have to say that, you know, even if you like the Blue Angel glossy cardstock, they're sturdy cards, like they're not going to fall to pieces. This is really, really thin, and I'm sorry, but I have to say that this reminds me of Low Scarabeo cardstock for Oracle. So I'm just very specific here on Oracle decks. And with Low Scarabeo, the cardstock is, I don't know if I can, sorry, I'm just going into here now so that I can actually show you an example. Here's an example. I think this is an example. This is, yeah. So this is the Unicorns by Paolo Barberi, and this is a Low Scarabeo Oracle deck, and this is retailing around the 15 to 16, 17 euro mark. Now, the thing is that I try not to be picky about cardstock so much, even though I think that's quite expensive, but I try not to be quite picky because, you know, it's kind of like relative to what else are we getting out in the market. So this deck is retailing, when it came out, I think it retailed around the 20 euro mark. And you get, maybe this should be a good comparison. You've got 34 cards in this, and with US games, I think it was 51 cards. So there is a huge difference in the number of cards. I will give them that to US games, sorry. But here you have, this is the Unicorns deck by Paolo Barberi. And I actually have the original, I originally got the Star Dragons one, and then I caved in and got this one. These are the backs. I mean, what a gorgeous back. But, you know, these are the cards, and the reason why, I just want to quickly show this deck. I don't want to spend too much time on it, because I didn't really use this for April, but this is in reference to going back to Blue Angel, is that this is the cardstock. So we've got a Low Scarabeo deck, and this is its cardstock, which is pretty thin. This is the US Games, and I have to say the US Games is sturdier in comparison. This will retail around 16 euros. This is going to retail when it's near around 20 to 25 euros. And then you've got like Blue Angel cardstock, and that's retailing around 20 euros. And the reason why I want to say this, and I'm not an expert in the GSMs and all that kind of stuff, I'm not going to go into that, but I want to say that, like, I'm really actually a bit annoyed because it's putting me off buying any more US Games decks. And maybe I'm going to change, maybe I'll cave in, and I'm sure I'm going to cave in. I'm going to see this really gorgeous US Games Oracle deck and just buy it, you know, because I really want it, and that will happen obviously at one point. But I just want to point that out because I got this deck out and they were so flimsy, I was a bit annoyed working with them. And honestly speaking, I have rock pool decks which are even like less expensive than this. They're really inexpensive, and they've got sometimes sturdier cardstock. So I just want to point that out. This is a gorgeous deck. I mean, the creator has done a stunning job. The art is just beautiful. It's so magical. It's so soothing. It's very worldly. It's crossing cultures. It's got Celtic. It's got you know, Middle Eastern. It's got Asian, of course. You know, it's got so many different harking back to so many different cultures, and yet you know, I personally believe that the cardstock has let it down. That's my own personal feelings. So I brought this out because it just shows you, you know, that currently where I'm also at in terms of working with decks. Because the thing is that I, you know, increasingly as we spend more and more, there is a discernment of like, what am I spending my money on, and then what am I getting for it? So I wanted to raise that as an issue because it did cross me, like, as in cross my path in April. Okay, so going on from there, let me show you some other decks that I also worked with in April. So I actually felt a need, so that's why you saw that just then the Mystic Sisters that I was trying to use. Then I went back to one of my Hay House goodies, which is the Divine Feminine. Now, this is by Megan Watterson. She did a book, and then the Oracle deck came. The artwork is by Lisbeth Cheever Gesman. It's a Hay House deck, again, mass market. I think right now it's retailing for around 20 euros. This, I don't know about the current edition or the current prints. This is like the older Hay House cardstock. So these are the backs. And so this is quite thick. It's that, yeah, it's basically the same kind of like quality as the Blue Angel Oracle. Different size in terms of dimensions, height and width of card. But the actual thickness of the card is pretty much the same. And that's the new Hay House. Now, I know that this artwork is not for everyone. I admit that. But I do give Megan Wasserson credits in creating a deck that was inclusive, tasteful, has a phenotype range, not just a skin color type range, but actual facial features. And then on top of that, it's got an age range, and I credit her for doing that and making that possible. And the artist actually as well. I shouldn't dismiss the artist, Lisbeth Cheever-Gessman, because I don't feel that many decks have that. So I know that this Photoshop work is not for everyone, but sometimes I actually have to see past the art because I'm trying to also get to a certain point in connection. And this time it does happen, you know, I don't know why, but I really like this deck. I like the diversity in the cultures. I like that we have strong women who I don't always see in all decks kind of thing. You know, we have ones that are very, very popular, like Gali, you know, she's everywhere, but there are also, you know, like here, Fatima, which is the mother of imams, you know, she's actually quite well known in the region that my parents come from. So basically, you know, we just have so much diversity in this deck, and I picked it up, and a few times I drew cards from here because I wanted that strong female empowerment, and sometimes I want to go out and buy a deck for that, and sometimes I'm like, no, just use something from your shelf kind of thing, and that was one of these moments. Okay, so that is let me get it back again so we can both see, and that is the Divine Feminine here. That's the box for it. Okay, so going on from there, let me just show you a deck that I used when with a few other people actually, that I've been kind of like, you know, sometimes I will be with friends, and sometimes I'm like, do you want me to pull a card for you? And they're like, yeah, I'd love that actually. And I have this huge variety and collection, but I have to say the deck that like most of my friends really like, and they like it when I pull a card from there, is this Kuan Yin Oracle. This is by Alana Fairchild. It's another Blue Angel deck, and this is just a deck that, and this look at the beautiful pink on the inside of this. But this is a deck that just, I don't know, like a lot of women I know just say, yeah, I'd love to have a card from this deck. So I kind of like, I keep this deck to the front of my collection because I just know that these are the backs. That I just know that it's always so popular with some people. And these are the images. It's just so graceful. It's slightly haunting. It's slightly, I know there's an energy that's again very ethereal and light, beautiful and delicate and feminine, and yet strong and ancestral, and just, you know, it's like the female divine in full flight. And I really, really appreciate the artwork here. Now, the artist, I do know that the artist is someone from the culture. Let me just make sure about that so that I get that right. Do they have the artist name in the front? They don't. You know, that just really always annoys me. But let me just see who the artist is. Artwork by Zheng Hao. So I don't know anything about this artist. I'm hoping, of course, that I'm getting it right by saying that they are of the culture as well. But Zheng Hao is the artist, and I find this deck that when I use it, and a lot of my friends are of different ethnicities, by the way, including Asian ethnicities, not just Indian, but Southeast Asia as well. They really, really love this deck. So there might be a kind of like a connection to the images that they feel. I don't know much in that sense, but I just know it's popular, so I always keep it near the front of my collection. And she always comes out in the summer. There's something about summer that this deck just comes alive. So again, gorgeous artwork, and I thought I would show this. And the other thing I like about it is that this is a bordered deck, but the borders are just beautiful. They're just gorgeous. They slightly vary in tone. But yeah, look at this. Okay, so moving on from there and just wrapping it up now, is just very quickly some decks that have come back to life. Oh, let me just show you this Oracle deck as well. This is the Earth Magic by Stephen Farmer. Now, I bought this and never really used it. But now I'm using it. I used it like once or twice last year and that was it. But now I'm using it, and I used it in April. And look at these beautiful cards. And what I really like about it is I like the guidebook actually. But these cards are just beautiful. If you want to do something that is close to kind of like that shamanic feel, earthy, season, land, and elemental feel. Sorry, that was what I'm trying to, and animal kingdom feel. I would definitely recommend this. And I just like it. I just think it's a beautiful, gentle, natural deck. It's really natural world for me in many different ways. Natural world and mythical world meeting together. So yeah, and you know, and the readings and the guidebook to this is just fantastic too. If you want me to go into this deck a lot more, let me know. As I'm looking through this with you all as well, I'm just kind of like, I've got some ideas of what I can work with it as well. So if you're more interested more in the Steve Farmer deck, let me know. But I do think it's a deck that I bought because I like the images. Then I never used it, and now all of a sudden I'm using it. Especially like I said last month. So and sometimes, you know, I do carry decks into the following months, and this is one of them that this month as well in May is coming back. So you know, I think this is Josephine Wall, and I really like the variety of artists in this deck. Okay, so going on from there, this is a deck that I have to say, so the next one I'm going to talk about now. This is a deck that I bought. You've all seen it sitting there. Everybody's seen it on my shelf. I've hardly used it. It's the Muse Tarot. And the reason why I've hardly used it is because the first time that when I bought it in 2020 when I had just come back to tarot, which I think is also the Steve Farmer deck as well. But anyway, I bought it in 2020. And, you know, I didn't know what I was buying at the time. It's like, you know, the first set, like after I came back into tarot and I saw all of these kind of like different varieties and book depository and whatever. Anyway, I bought this. I think I bought it when it was just new, and I bought it at a low price point. I think it was like 15 euros or something. So yeah, so this is Chris-Anne. Also, you know, she's the creator of the Light Seers. And I bought this deck, and I have to say the first thing I thought when I started to look through it was like, oh, it just wasn't me. I think it's a beautiful deck. I mean, look at the inside of that box. Gorgeous. But the first thing I thought was like, it just reminds me of like being 25 and living in Brussels when I was really young, like being like 22 or whatever, and moving here, and you know, and just like it kind of like was like, okay, I'm not in those years of my life anymore, you know, that was a long time ago, and so I just didn't think it was for me. And I have to say, probably people are going to kill me when I say this, but it felt like a young millennials deck, and I'm kind of like, maybe not for me. And it also reminded me a lot of Cosmopolitan magazine, I have to say that, and like reading those magazines when we're young, you know. So of course we've all seen the Muse Tarot, but here it is one more time. It does have the muses, the kings are in landscape form. But this is the thing, I've on and off over the nearly 2 years I've had this deck, whenever I've had a business issue, this deck reads like a dream. She's very, very clear with business, for me, for business related issues. And so, and it's a bit like the Light Seers with personal issues. There is a certain clarity that this deck has, which is like amazing. And the other thing I realized as I get this deck out again is, I do know that when I read for others, and if the other person happens to be a tarot reader themselves, they like this deck, and I just don't know what it is. It's disarming, basically. And so I found this really helpful when I'm helping someone from our kind of like, you know, community as well, because it just reads really, really well. And I don't know what it is, like it's images that I think a lot of people can relate to. I don't think I would use it with every single person, just to be very clear. I don't think it's for everyone, this deck. But she has a place, and I realize now she's earned her place in my collection, and I don't want to be without her. And I'm so glad I have this deck now. I really love it. I also think, you know, if you're someone that has started off in tarot and you don't have, you know, you don't want to buy, let's say, the Star Child right now because it's an investment, or if you don't want to buy, let's say, the She-Wolf or whatever, you know, and these are beautiful collage decks. They're gorgeous. But if you want to start off experimenting, am I going to like the cards in the first place? This might be a way to try. Of course, this is more pastel-y, a lot more vibrant in a different way, but it's still collage art. So I think it's a good way to kind of like dip your toes in the water without spending, let's say, 70, 80 euros. You know, this is going to be around the 20 euro mark. So I mean, you know, it's just a suggestion. And these are the backs. I think they're gorgeous. But I do find that this deck, I'm glad I didn't write it off and get rid of it as quickly as I thought I was going to do. So there you go. Okay, so these were my kind of like favorites for April. Let me know if any of these kind of like, you know, ring a bell for you. Let me quickly show you just one more. I just realized I've just forgotten. Sorry, wait, I've just forgotten this one. One more deck, and I just want to not knock everything over as I try and get everything out for you. One more deck that kind of like is like a sleeper in my deck. It's very quiet and it's very quiche. So be prepared. It's another oracle, but I've got to get it out. It's the Witch's Wisdom. This deck I bought for my birthday. I bought like a whole load of stuff for my birthday last year. And I thought, oh, it's so cheesy. And I knew it was going to be cheesy, but I thought, you could have spent that money on something else. That's what I thought originally. Now, this is a deck by Barbara Meikle John Free and Flavia Kate Peters. I do know that they're UK-based creators. And then it says Richard Crooks, so I think that might be the illustrator. Now, the reason why I got this deck, to be very honest with you, is because it reminds me of home. There's something about this deck that is just so, maybe it's just me, but it just reminds me of home. So Anglo-Saxon, British, Celtic. It just reminds me of the British Isles. That's a bit more better fit, but it just does. I don't know. You know what it does? It reminds me of the early noughties, 2001, 2002, and Oracle and tarot decks from that time, especially Oracle decks. It reminds me of that cheesiness, and so these are the backs, and it comes with this beautiful silver gilding. And it's just, you know, some people are going to really, really just take a shock. It's really heavily photoshopped, as you can already tell, but I love it. I just really love it. It's a deck. It's like a deck. It's like, I see stuff like this also, that Akana Sakura, the French marketers, producers also have decks like these. And I think there's a really great place for them in the collection. You know, it's just not fussy. It's not fussy. I mean, this reminds me of, you know, Dorothy and her shoes and protection and, you know, and click your shoes and you go back home kind of thing. And you know, here we have this like dedication to the altar. It's just not a fussy deck. I love the colors. It kind of like reminds me of like that, you know, like there's something about it, like the eternal Christmas feel or Yule feel, however you want to put it, but there's this feeling always of that dark starlight magic that we want to take with us throughout the whole year. And this deck kind of like does that little bit for me. I just love it. I'm a bit apologetic about it, and I shouldn't be actually, because I really like the deck, and the artist has done a phenomenal job. I love this card. The artist has done a phenomenal job, and I like the writing as well. It's very short, it's to the point. I really, really like this duo. I think I'm going to get a couple of more of their decks for sure. You know, I'm sure it's not for everyone, but I like the fact that it's covering all the different Sabbats or, you know, occasions, however you want to put it. I like the fact that it covers for me like the summer solstice, the autumn equinox and so forth. I like those points in the year. So yeah, so here's Mammon and Balance. I mean, look at this, the beauty of these cards. this makes me happy. This makes me really, really happy. That's the best way I can put it. And sometimes it's just good to have decks in our collection, right, that just bring a smile to our face, and we don't have to justify them, and we don't have to say why they're in our collection. You know, I remember sometimes thinking, oh, you know, people see this and think, oh God, like she likes those cheesy Photoshop stuff. But you know what I do? I sometimes just want a good deck like this just to remind me of home. And you know, if it does the job of helping me feel grounded, helping me feel closer to myself, to the world, to magic, I'll stop on this card here, grounding. You know, it's worth the investment, right? That's how I put it. So I will stop there. Thank you for joining me on this. Now it's become a very long April visits. Tomorrow I'll be doing the video for the full moon in Scorpio coming up, and the abundance workshops if you want to join me for that. But until then, have a lovely weekend, and I will see you all soon. Take care now. Bye.